Eli Turner wasn't the kind of man people noticed. Every morning, he mopped their floors, emptied their bins, and smiled when no one else did. But one cup of coffee, one tiny act, changed everything. Because that same morning, his boss accused him of stealing and fired him on the spot. What no one knew, not the boss, not the employees watching, was that Eli Turner wasn't just the janitor. He was the man who owned everything they stood on. The morning air in downtown Atlanta smelled like burnt toast and ambition. People rushed into glass towers, clutching coffee cups like lifelines. And inside one of those towers, the shimmering Langford Financial Building, a man named Eli Turner pushed a mop bucket across marble floors. He moved quietly. His shoes squeaked. His uniform was faded. His hands were cracked for bleach. But his eyes were calm, the eyes of a man who'd seen too much to complain. He'd been cleaning that same lobby for 7 years. Every night, he arrived before sunrise. Every morning, he left after the city came alive. Most people never noticed him, except Mr. Grant Langford, the CEO, a man who noticed everything he owned. Grant Langford was tall, sharp-suited, and obsessed with control. He walked like he owned the air around him because, in his mind, he did. To him, people were either assets or background noise. And Eli Turner, in Grant's eyes, was background noise. That morning, the lobby smelled like espresso. Grant sipped from his personal mug, a gold-lettered GL shining on the side. He placed down the reception counter, barking orders into his phone. Eli passed by quietly, pushing his cart. He was tired but polite. He nodded, said good morning. Grant didn't answer. He never did. When Eli finished mopping, he noticed something on the counter, the CEO's mug. It was empty. The brown ring around the inside said it needed a wash. Eli sighed softly and carried it to the janitor's closet sink. He rinsed it, polished it, and placed it carefully back on the counter, just like he did with everything else he touched. 2 hours later, chaos erupted. Grant stormed out of his office, waving the mug in the air. "Who took my coffee?" he shouted at the front desk. "I left it half full." The receptionist froze. The guards looked at each other. Then, as if on cue, all eyes turned toward the janitor with the mop. Eli blinked. "Sir," Grant barked. "You were the only one here. Did you drink my coffee?" Eli frowned. "No, sir. I just cleaned the cup." Grant's eyes narrowed. Cleaned it? Or finished it? There was laughter from a few employees nearby. Nervous. Forced. Eli looked around. The laughter cut deeper than the accusation. "I didn't touch your coffee, sir," Eli said calmly. "I just cleaned it because it was empty." Grant stepped closer. "Do you know how much that mug cost?" "No, sir. $500. Custom gold trim. You don't just clean that." Eli stayed quiet. He knew better than to argue with power. But Grant wasn't finished. "Pack your things," he snapped. "You're done here." The lobby went silent. Even the elevator stopped chiming. Eli's hand tightened around his mop handle. "Sir, please," he said softly. "It's just a misunderstanding." Grant turned to security. Escort him out. The guards hesitated. They knew Eli. He was kind. Never late. Never rude. But orders were orders. They walked him out the glass doors, while Grant smirked and took another sip from a fresh cup of coffee someone brought him. Outside, the sun was rising. Eli stood on the sidewalk, his uniform still damp with cleaning solution. He stared up at the massive building, the one he'd cared for more than anyone inside. He whispered to himself, "People forget who keeps the floor beneath them shining." And then he walked away. 2 days later, the building buzzed with new gossip. The janitor got fired for stealing coffee. Can you believe that? Boss doesn't play. Grant Langford loved it. He thought it showed control, discipline, power. He had no idea that the quiet man he'd humiliated had a past far bigger than a mop bucket. Eli Turner lived in a small house on the west side. It wasn't fancy, but it was his, paid in full. He spent his evenings fixing old radios, reading books, and listening to jazz. He didn't talk much about his life before cleaning. But behind that calm face was a man who once wore suits, signed checks, and knew how numbers could move worlds. Years ago, Eli had been part of a partnership, one that invested in urban properties before they became gold mines. He'd sold his shares to take care of his dying mother. Quietly, privately. But one piece of paper, one title, had never been transferred. The Langford Financial Building. When it was built, it was owned by a small group of investors. One of them was Eli Turner. He had never sold his share, and through years of mergers and name changes, that share had grown into something more, something powerful. That night, Eli sat at his kitchen table. He looked at an old folder, yellowed, creased but legal. The deed, his name, still there. He smiled faintly. "Guess I've been cleaning my own floors all this time," he said. The next week, Langford Financial prepared for an inspection, a major audit from investors. Grant strutted around, giving fake smiles and loud orders. He wanted everything spotless, but the air in the lobby felt different. People whispered when he passed, and then a black SUV pulled up outside. Out stepped two men in suits and one older gentleman with silver hair, walking slowly, confidently, with a leather briefcase. It was Eli. The receptionist froze. "Mr. Turner?" Eli smiled kindly. "Good morning, dear. I'm here for the investor meeting." Grant appeared, irritated. "What's this about? Investors? This is a private." Then he stopped. He recognized the face. "You?" Grant's voice cracked. "What are you doing here? You don't work here anymore." Eli nodded. "You're right. I don't. But I still own a part of this building." Grant laughed. "You're joking." Eli opened his briefcase and slid a document across the counter. Langford Property Holdings, original ownership deed, signed and filed 1998. I'm still listed as a 51% majority stakeholder. Grant's face drained of color. The receptionist covered her mouth. "This has to be a mistake," Grant stammered. "Maybe," Eli said calmly. "But my lawyers think otherwise. So do the people you're meeting today." The men in suits stepped forward. "Mr. Langford, we represent the board. Mr. Turner requested this audit." Grant swallowed hard. The building suddenly felt smaller. The boardroom felt like ice. Grant Langford sat stiffly at the end of the long table, his gold cufflinks glinting under the lights. Across from him sat Eli Turner, the man he'd fired 2 weeks ago for stealing coffee. But today, Eli wasn't in a janitor's uniform. He wore a navy blue suit, pressed and clean. His silver hair gleamed against his dark skin. His presence filled the room, calm, composed, impossible to ignore. Grant kept glancing at him like he was seeing a ghost. "You can't be serious," he said. "You're telling me this man owns the building?" One of the board members, a woman in her 50s with rimmed glasses, cleared her throat. "Mr. Turner's documents are valid. The ownership records confirm he's the primary stakeholder of Langford Property Holdings, which controls this entire complex." Grant's jaw locked. "That's impossible. This is my company." Eli spoke softly. "It's your company, Mr. Langford, but this is my building. You've been renting from me for years." A low murmur rippled across the table. Grant blinked, unsure whether to shout or laugh. Eli continued. "When my mother got sick, I stepped away from business. I didn't care about titles. I cared about her. But one asset remained in my name, this property. I let it be. The rent payments kept coming. I didn't even think about it." He paused, eyes calm, "until someone fired me for cleaning his mug." The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that bends air. Grant looked around. Nobody would meet his eyes. Eli leaned back slightly. "I didn't come here for revenge, Mr. Langford, but I came to remind you, power doesn't make you better. It just shows the world who you already are." Grant swallowed. "You could have told me." "You could have." Eli smiled faintly. You didn't ask. The board chair cleared his throat. Mr. Turner, as majority stakeholder, you have the right to make executive decisions regarding tenancy. Eli nodded. I do. He turned to Grant. And I think this building needs new leadership, one that knows how to treat people. Grant stood, voice trembling. You can't just. I can, Eli said, calm but firm. Effective immediately. Your lease is under review. Your office space, your name on the sign, all of it. You'll get notice within 30 days. Grant's face turned red. You're kicking me out? Eli stood slowly. No, I'm giving you a chance to see what humility feels like. You can stay if you're willing to work with people instead of walking over them. Grant opened his mouth, but no words came. Word spread fast. By the next morning, everyone in the building knew. The janitor who'd been fired owned the place. Employees whispered in the elevators. The security guards smiled quietly. Even the receptionist looked prouder when she greeted him. Eli didn't walk through the building like a king. He walked the same way he always had, calm, polite, smiling at people who'd once ignored him. He still held doors open, still thanked the cleaning staff. When Grant walked through the lobby that morning, he saw something new, respect that wasn't bought but earned. And it wasn't for him. He walked up to Eli near the elevators. Eli was inspecting a light fixture with a maintenance worker. Grant cleared his throat. Mr. Turner, may I have a word? Eli turned. Of course. They walked into the same lobby where it had all started, the place where Grant had accused him of stealing coffee. Grant stared at the floor. I wanted to say, I was wrong. Eli nodded slightly. It takes courage to say that. I shouldn't have treated you that way, Grant continued. Or anyone, for that matter. Eli's tone was gentle. People show their true colors when they think no one's watching. But there's always someone watching, Mr. Langford, even if it's just your own conscience. Grant looked up, shame softening his voice. I don't expect forgiveness. Eli smiled. Then you might deserve it. Grant blinked. You mean that? I mean, Eli said, you can start again. Not everyone gets that chance. He extended his hand. Grant hesitated, then shook it, firmly, sincerely. That moment, two men from different worlds, joined by humility, said more than any speech could. Months passed. The Langford building changed, not just in structure, but in spirit. Eli stayed involved, not as a janitor, not even as an owner, but as a quiet mentor. He created a fund for the cleaning staff, raising their wages and offering free education grants for their families. He replaced the cold marble reception desk with warm lighting and artwork from local black artists. He even set up a small coffee corner in the lobby with a sign that read, Free coffee. Respect is priceless. People smiled every time they passed it. Grant Langford changed, too. He started greeting the janitors. He listened more. He stopped walking like the world owed him space. For the first time, his employees felt seen. One afternoon, Eli was standing by the window on the top floor, watching the city glow orange under sunset. Grant joined in quietly. I used to think owning things made me powerful, Grant said. Eli smiled faintly. And now? Grant looked out at the skyline. Now I think power means how you treat people when you don't have to. Eli nodded. Then you've learned something money can't buy. They stood in silence. Outside, the city hummed. The sound of life, struggle, and second chances. Later that night, the cleaning crew arrived. They found Eli sitting in the lobby, sipping coffee from a simple white mug. One of them, a young woman named Tasha, smiled. Mr. Turner, you still drink the free coffee like the rest of us? Eli grinned. Why not? I help pay for it. She laughed. You own the whole building. He looked around the bright lobby, the shining floors, the smiling faces, the quiet hum of harmony, and said softly, No, I just take care of it. That night, The city lights reflected off the tall glass building that once symbolized ego, now a symbol of humility. And somewhere, in that golden reflection, the world remembered an old truth. Respect is wealth, humility is power, and kindness, that's the real empire.